Thank you, Allison. I'd like to add, I meant to say that at once, that the town of Pembroke met with the Brockton City Water Department Commissioner, and we prevailed, and we have water for December 1st. Next is Matt Bass, Environmental Law Enforcement. Just a question and answers.
I'm just going to briefly introduce Matt. Lieutenant Matt Bass with the Massachusetts Department of Police is very fortunate to come here today and talk with us. I think he and his staff are really active in the spring, looking after some of these resources that we spend a lot of time with, river herring, American eel. And so I thought, I think, to have Matt available to discuss concepts with glass eel poaching, past activity, maybe some discussion on future activity, as well as how his group might interact with the prospect of opening herringlets in the future. So we've got Matt here to take your questions. We also have Director Mike Armstrong here from our program who could answer questions as well from a management standpoint. So I encourage an open discussion on these topics.
Great.
Come up. You want to come up?
Sure. And I saw you got me with coffee, donuts, and the pizza was a bonus. But I see a lot of familiar faces out there, some for better reasons than others. You all know who we are. But yeah, I've been on the job for about coming up with 14, 15 years. Looking at some of the things, I don't have a big fancy PowerPoint for better or worse, so because it's more or less just a question and answer. Some of the things they were looking to touch on, I guess I'll start with the eels, the elvers. Looking back this year, I think it was a little slower, probably because of the weather. Everything iced in, slowed things down. Maybe or maybe not. I think in our call log, I saw 40 different calls for us going to elver-related stuff. We seized a bunch of equipment, a lot of it, I think some of those pictures were 2 years ago, but stuff like that. People find nets, stuff on the side of the river, and then you can probably determine it's a little too late to actually sit on it all day and all night. A couple of arrests as well, as far as the new laws and the higher fines that were able to be implemented. I think the Wheels of Justice moved really slow, so we'll find out how those cases from this spring turn out in a couple of years. Obviously, kind of the herring have gone down as far as our enforcement issues, because everybody's over the last 10 years and gotten used to not being able to have herring for the most part. So still, we respond to a lot of complaints complaints from maybe a Wampanoag, tribal member stating basically not an issue for us. If we show up, they show us a WOM card and we're good to go. I think, Brad mentioned our thoughts on opening the herring fishery. I think things could probably be a little bit different. Obviously, there's been a fishery and enforcement issues in the past, and we dealt with it. I think this time it would likely be a little bit different, opening 1 or 2 rivers at a time. And I think part of the process is that, those management plans would be thought over, accepted, implemented. You get a little say in, at the end, what our thoughts or issues might be. I think we were talking at the lunch break what issues we might have with the enforcement, and probably all of you, because these are our rivers too, that if they did open one river, the first thing that's probably going to happen is you go down to a well fleet, and somebody's going to have a bucket full of herring, and they're going to say, hey, I got them in the baskets. So it's kind of the green light to take herring from anywhere and say they got it from one spot. So if you're looking at this plan, hey, they're not open in my run, I don't have to worry about it. Probably everybody's best interest to try to figure out the right way to do this, because down the line you'll probably run into that issue. So for what that's worth, when that process is being made, get your input in there. Any questions or anything?
Matt, in terms of the $10,000,
So close.
I know, the $10,000 fine was just implemented this year, and the before that, there was basically a $100 fine for taking juvenile eels or undersized eels, so it was a dramatic increase to $10,000 per episode. Did you actually issue any $10,000 citations this year?
Well, it's different. It's not an action. We fine people or assess fines in different manners. It's a non-criminal fine. So typically, if I caught somebody with a small mesh net on the side of the river, it could be I could write them a $50 ticket. A couple of those did come out just because we did catch a bunch of people that were. We knew they were going to go eeling, but they hadn't yet. So then you just look for you can cite them for just the simple possession of the net is enough. The fines allowed for that are the criminal side of it, for a maximum, not more than $10,000. In the past, some of those fines, depending on the CMR or the Mass General Law they were cited under, would allow for, I think, 1,000 or more. But a lot of times, and we've had a number of cases that go through the courts where we're like, all right, we've got a good case, and the judge goes, eels? $50 dismissed. And when there are other cases where there is a little bit of education in the courts and they look at it and it goes a lot farther, but a lot of times people, they'll relate to those to like a bad, OUI motor vehicle accident or, drugs or something, and they'll look at the fines assessed and say eels, somebody died, you're asking for more. So there's a little bit of education, and those are some of the hurdles that we're going through. But as far as the education too, that a lot of people don't understand that they're going out and making maybe $50,000 to $60,000 in a night. So $10,000 might not be a whole lot. Ma'am, you have a question?
Well, it's more of a comment actually. Having found a nice huge eel trap in the Jones River that would stretch across the room here. If you were to find somebody in the Jones River, say, and let us know when you were going to court, we might have something to say to the judge.
Okay, I'm not sure how
Because I'll just make this comment. I've always been told, call you guys, call you guys, call you guys. We call you guys, but we never get any feedback. Give us some feedback and let us partner with you in doing things like that. Not that I want to arrest anybody, but I sure would like a judge to understand that it means more to the community than just the guy in the eel net.
Yeah, I mean, I think we probably will try to let you know when, or, a lot of the times things in the paper, but I'm not actually that sure that the judge would even entertain that, because that might not be the, be the spot unless you're like that direct victim statement thing. But kind of reversing that, I'm sorry, like you said, all we do is ask for help, and then maybe you don't see anything or hear anything on the other side of it. You guys are on those riverbanks way more than we are, and it's just, a lot of people have my phone number, my email, obviously our 800 number, little note asking to speak to the local officer. But the tracks, the little nets, something suspicious on the side of the river, just getting us an idea of where, when. A lot of towns have been great with cameras and a lot of setups. But yeah, that help is absolutely invaluable. So apologize for the lack of feedback or perceived response that you're not getting.
As a follow-up to Pine's question, does your department do any reporting out on the results of legal cases so that the public can be not outraged at you, but outraged at the results to then give you more support from the grassroots level that doesn't go through your program, but goes through the political channels from the public? Saying,
So yeah, kind of yes and no for the most part. For the majority of my time on the job, no. All super secret. There has been a little change in administration, and we now have a Facebook and a Twitter account, and that's been generating a lot of some interest depending on what's going on. So I think a lot of that you will be seeing stuff like that on there. So that's probably in the last 6 months or so.
Can I just comment on your Facebook thing? I thought it was dynamite, the shark stuff that was being posted, and Captain So-and-so's up in the air and putting some videos on. I think it's a very effective tool, and that if you can spread it around to some of these other issues, that we would get a little bit more education.
Yeah, we, and there's a lot of things that people would like to post, but then it's the ask, and it's like, well, that puts them in a bad light, and this and that, so it's kind of got to be vetted a little bit, for better or worse.
I think that's fine.
Oh yeah, and probably should be more stuff, but, and I try and take it back. So, I'm glad to hear it's working. Yes?
What about the power of the press? If you could use the community press when you have a case, and instead of the $50 fine, it does get on the paper that somebody, got fined $10,000.
Yeah, and I think that's where the Twitter and the Facebook is going. I mean, just for example, if you've been following, earlier this year, some of the striped bass and the sea bass stuff, some boat feces and whatnot, that it's, getting it out there in the public and letting people know what's actually happening. And now actually putting pressure on different ports, because we go to many different ports, that, New Bedford has done one thing, and another Cape Port's not, that, everybody's starting to get on the same page, so.
Have more clarity.
We'll see if it works.
Matt, back to the $10,000 fine. Any thoughts or your perception on whether it might have acted as an incentive or disincentive for guys from Maine to come down here? I felt like they were less visible this past spring, but there was still a lot of activity. Do you think that fine might have changed some behaviors?
You know what, I'm not sure. Again, in the past, from cases we made, making seniors taking people's cars, they're like, okay, take it, because the money was so big. Some of the, we're thinking maybe the decline in some of the main traffic we saw down here is the state of Maine implemented a new kind of protocol. They
New quota system in
quotas, cards, and a little bit more accountability, so that might have made it harder. But probably, the price did top over $2,000 a pound or something this year, so, I sit in the bushes there and watch, basically dollar bills swimming by, so it's kind of lucrative. But I think probably the changes in Maine, really late spring, tough fishing conditions. Like I said, we still saw some activity, but for whatever reason, we didn't make quite as many cases. So, a couple years ago, there was a more concerted, big effort with U.S. Fish and Wildlife in a number of different states. Again, that criminal justice rolling really slow on that, because they're still making more info out of that. And so, if anybody has any questions about that, I still can't really talk about it, because there's that part's still kind of going through the process.
Are most of the people you cite for EOL violations in fact from Maine, or are they from also a large number from Massachusetts or other
Actually,
states?
in my experience, I'm probably 60-40, a lot from Maine, or there's always an association with Maine. Yeah. So, for those that aren't familiar, Maine does have that commercial fishery, so there's the avenue, if you illegally take them here, once you get them into the market in Maine, then they're good to go, so.
Again, is it a larger crime to cross a state border?
It's an additional federal violation, a Lacey Act violation, if you take unlawfully, taking fish or game and then cross state lines, it's another violation. And that's why we're working with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife in that aspect. Sir?
I think if you look at those general laws, and you change the legislation a little bit to do minimum mandatory fines or minimum mandatory sentences, because a lot of times something might be a felony, but the judge will turn around and consider it a misdemeanor or change it to a misdemeanor and gives the guy a small fine or whatever, for something easier. And the minimum mandatory sentences, I think, are coming wave of the future, because the first time you get caught is the first time you've ever done anything wrong like that. So the judge can be a little more lenient on you, or you're regulating that by saying, if one judge goes in and he just doesn't like game wardens or whatever, he's always going to let them all go. And if you have it on a minimum mandatory on whatever you get caught with, the first time you get caught, it's a $200 or $300 fine. The second time you get caught or whatever, that's a big deterrent for people on second or third or fourth offense, when they get caught with that, because It's the same with a lot of the illegal aliens and stuff that are here now, is that they come in and they drive cars all over the place, and they get caught, it's only a $50 fine for them. They leave and they go right back out and do the same thing all over again.
For better or worse, I'm kind of on the law enforcement side, and I let these guys make the regulations, and then I go out to enforce them. But, I mean, we do have a nice working relationship and having the input, but I don't think there's any one easy solution. But right now, I think we do carry a pretty big stick, is if, depending on the situation, if you're getting arrested and we're taking everything you have, your car, and whatnot, so that generally sends a message, but catching them in the first place is absolutely the hardest part.
I work with volunteers that help us do fish counting, and so we're out there on the river every day. If we come across something unusual, Ned or saying, what do you recommend we do other than calling, marine fisheries or calling? Touch it, don't touch it, stay there, leave?
No, I would just leave and report it, give us a call, and then depending on your availability or your departments, I know like Barnstable and a bunch of others, with the cameras and this and that, and we'll try to work that area. But I mean, yeah, if somebody picks it up and brings it to you, say, hey, look what I found, you don't have to go try to put it back and make it look just right. It's the game's up. But and a lot of these kind of places that they're finding, you're looking at nice, easy access areas alongside of the road, right on the edge of fresh water, salt water, herring run, this and that. But as some of these sources or informants that from these last couple operations, we ask them, so hey, what are you driving? A nice pickup truck? I'm like, no, I like a bright red Dodge Charger. And how far do you walk from the road? How far would you walk for 50 grand? Okay, a long way. So it's kind of opening up our eyes on look, it's not right there. But yeah, if you find something, if it looks natural, you just walk in and see it, give us a call, that'd be great. Anything else, it's, I don't know. Yes, ma'am.
I have two comments. One, I used to work in the courts, and on the Cape anyway. All the district courts, this is a gross generalization, but mostly true, really look at environmental offenses as much lesser than some of the people and property and so on.
And it's probably,
It's like your comment, oh, what, an eel or scrubbed lobster.
we're just not familiar, I mean, I've had, some judges, throw it right out, and then another one say, Homerus Americanus? And you're like, that's the Latin for lobster. And, yeah, so it depends. But yeah, it's a lack of familiarity in what they see. They not to blame them, but they probably just don't know. But in the end of the day, when I walk away, that's kind of what I'm thinking.
My second comment is what we're doing in Orleans, and we have a very small run. But some of us herring counters go down not during the herring count shift. Like earlier in the morning, the way to work, later, both to the herring run where it opens into the water and also up at the lake. We also have a relationship with our local police because they can get there a heck of a lot faster than, it's on the speed dial if you see. We have seen trucks with a Maine license plate, for example, or we look under the bridge and see if there's a net or something. We're ready to take a picture and document right away.
Perfect, yeah, absolutely. And a lot of those Cape towns like Harwich, the PD, they grab some people, great, $50 dismissed, and now I think they're now up to speed and are checking those runs and knowing what to look for, and not just to run people off. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Is you're going to take that look of just like the entire river or brook, and you're the ones that are going to find it. So.
Well, we're trying to do that a little bit more organized. I think it's helpful.
What are the Massachusetts laws for eels? Could we go out and catch some of these glass eels now? Is it legal to take them and bring them home?
No, there's the minimum size is 9 inches. These glass eels are the same ones that grow up into the big brown ones you use for striper bait.
Okay.
So you can go buy them in a store, so long as they're 9 inches. You can't have any more than 25 at a time, with some exceptions, a charter boat captain or whatnot. traps out and catch legal-sized eels recreationally.
As long as they're over 9 inches.
25 a day.
Thanks.
And so the glass is just to do with their age? I mean,
Yeah, when they spawn and start migrating from the Sargasso Sea, they're clear, they're glass, and once they hit primarily, for the most part, once they hit the freshwater, they start to pigment and turn brown or whatever other color. So when they're still clear, that's when these Asian markets or other markets like them, because they grow them out especially to keep them clear or less pigmented, and that's where they fetch the most money. So they want to get them before they start turning color.
Time for one or two more?
If you're gonna drag me up here, you're gonna let me talk. Just a couple of points. So as Matt alluded to, marine fisheries, we have no enforcement powers. So we make a lot of rules. We make complex rules, and these guys try and enforce them. So the challenge going forward will be to craft river herring rules. I will tell you right now, well, let's see, things have changed. Before 2005, back when I was working on herring in the 90s, I'll tell you no one cared about herring. If we had a meeting here, you'd have a bunch of old guys, grumpy old guys, herring guys, that's it. There'd be no NGOs, no anything. We collapsed the stock essentially in 2005, and people became more involved, which is great. So we have a whole different bunch of people now. It's inevitable we will open up some runs, but I will say, if we open up more than 4 runs, I'd be surprised, ever. We're working on the plan. ASMFC has set the bar very high. It needs to be a strong, good run, and the harvest needs to be small, measurable, and sustainable. And many of your runs will never reach that bar. I'll just put that out there right now. But when it opens, as Matt said, we're going to have to devise a system that we can differentiate between poached fish and legal fish, which is going to be difficult. So if you have any ideas, we're crafting those ideas now. You know, back before the closure, Brad watched a tank truck being filled with the Mystic Lakes, right, for bait. And that went on all over the state. So our runs will always be a little bit brittle. We will never return to what the Pilgrims saw. We will always have age truncation. So they're not terribly powerful runs like they used to be. So we have to do this cautiously. That's why many of your runs will never open. People tell me I say the truth as quickly as possible. If your run's not 100,000 fish, it probably isn't opening. I'll throw that out there. I may eat those words one day. But I will say, that's controversial. Even within our agency, there are folks that believe they have a more noble cause than bait for sport fishermen. And that's fine. And I may actually be in that camp. And I'm guessing in this room, and I'd like to ask her to raise a hand, but I won't put you in the spot. I bet most people in here would rather not open their runs ever again. But the political reality is, it's a commonly held resource of the Commonwealth and of the U.S., and we will open some runs. So we want to do it in a very responsible manner, and we want to do it in a way that these guys can make it work. So that's going forward will be challenging.
Middleborough Lakeville. We had control of the run for quite some time, and because we use some state funds and it's considered a town-owned run, we opened it up to Massachusetts residents, but through a permitting system. So we have a little bit of a unique situation in which we can control the numbers. And we did it with, ID cards and punches for each day and so on and so forth. That probably could be duplicated. I believe the state would have a bigger problem because if it's a state-owned run, it would just be open to everybody in the state, I would assume. Like I said, we're in a unique situation in which we can limit the amount if it ever does open up. I don't know if we'll ever get to that point.
And that's what is going to have to happen. There's probably going to have to be a permit and some allocation of fish by a herring warden. And this is the problem. When we put the moratorium in, a lot of towns had permits. They made a little bit of money. They could pay a herring warden a little bit. We lost a lot of that, and a lot of towns lost their herring wardens, and a lot of you guys are volunteering now instead of getting paid a few $1,000s. So going forward, we need to rebuild that structure a little bit. And towns used to have a lot more control. When ASMFC stepped in, the towns lost a little of that control, and I think you all feel it. So the bar will be high, but I think where you're heading there is right. There will be a ticket sort of system. But we talked about you're going to need a receipt. That's good for 5 days. If you're found with river herring, you need a receipt from this open run that says it was harvested in 5 days, something like that. We'll work with, try to work with it.
Is there any of your regs under particular review, especially related to the diatomaceous fish or the eels, under particular review under the EO 562 reg review program?
Oh, well, I can't really answer, but all our rules are.
Everything's under consideration, but I didn't know if anything was
Yes,
singled
we
out.
actually think, because we're gonna have to go forward with some new regs, and we think it'll be looked favorably on by the administration as liberalizing. So I'm not sure where it's gonna go. Eric?
Mike, could you expand further on the comment that you made over there about general public access to some of these runs? Is there anything on the books that
Right.
dictate, I know that applies for boat ramps, but how does that apply for a fish run?
Well, all our big runs can be under town control, or were before this moratorium. I don't know if there's any runs that are not under town control that would be harvestable. I don't see the state, us, ever opening a run. It would be a run that a town like Middleborough, Lakeville has great control over, or Pembroke, that can get the job done in terms of monitoring and everything else. So you'll never see the state runs harvested legally, but that's the challenge.
So what you're saying, just to follow up on that, which means there's not open access to other towns. So if Middleborough
Well,
opens theirs up.
everything's closed now.
No. Assuming one opens up, is
Yeah.
there anything, because you kind of referred a tidbit so only if the state would open it up, a run to manage it, would a alternate town have access to it?
Yes.
Okay.
So wait a minute.
What,
No,
no, that's
I'm sorry.
No, the state resource, they would have to provide access for out-of-town permits.
Okay, so
Some allocation for out-of-town permits would have to be made.
Okay.
Just the way we did it when it was open was any resident of Middleborough and Lakeville could get a permit. And there were 300 permits for out-of-town residents that we pulled by a lottery system. I know Wareham had a permit system that was under different rules. Bourne had one that was under different rules.
It's like the system of having moorings in state tidal waters. You can't exclude outside of that town.
But
You have to find some mechanism to allow them to share that resource.
But is there consistent guidance that's in place now, or will there be one at some point? For example, in this case, 300 for outside by lottery. Is that just random that they pick 300, or is there any regulatory program that says thou shalt?
It wasn't totally random.
We started with 200 and worked our way up to 300 over the years. So it's a town-owned run, it was town monitored. The state agreed with the quantities that we were willing to sell on a town-owned run to non-town residents.
I think what you'll see, Eric, is in the sustainable fishery plan, you'll have a target, and you'll have to justify that target with your allocation scheme. So your permits will have to fit to that annual harvest, which isn't easy to do.
What, is it 10 years of statistics, how you said, or 20?
Well, Atlantic States Marine Fishery Commission wants to have at least 10 years of run data before they'll even consider a sustainable fishery plan. That's just one of the bars that's there.
That was the other question, you talk about the Atlantic, et cetera. They've already opened it up in every state but Massachusetts, is that true? They've already just granted?
River herring?
No,
Four
that's not
states?
true.
No, five states are open. in-
5 states, not individual runs. The
No,
entire
they're
state is open.
Individual runs within 5 states. In fact, North Carolina has one river.
South Carolina's one, New York is one, New Hampshire's like 5, Maine has the most at 19. So it can be embayment-wide, it can be statewide, it can be one river. I picture Massachusetts going river by river, depending on these data series.
We're a very different state because we have lots of little coastal rivers. You go down south, River Herd occur in big, huge rivers. So we have a more complex problem over here.
Thank you, guys.